Scared to death when you had to go to Toastmaster. When you heard you had to go to Toastmaster, how many of you thought you would never survive? I was scared to death. My 3 points today are fear and anxiety, looking for a familiar face, and then relief. Those are my 3 points. When I first found out we had to do a Toastmaster, I tried everything I could possibly try to convince myself I could get out of this. I tried. I tried. And then I procrastinated. And then I called a few, and they didn't call me back. I was so relieved. They didn't call me back. And I emailed a couple, praying they would not call me back. And then Wednesday night, in the evening, about 7, I get this phone call from this gentleman named Bill Dickens. Bill Dickens. He's part of the Toastmaster at the public utility company here in Tacoma. He called me and he said, we have room for a speaker tomorrow at 11:50. And I went, tomorrow? And this is Wednesday evening. And he said, would you like to come? And I said, sure. So I hang up the phone, and now, my adrenaline's pumping. I have a speech to give at 11:50 tomorrow morning. But I also have a speech to give in class the next morning. So I have to prepare for the speech for class, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not prepared to give a speech at any Toastmaster. And I thought, for some reason, it had to be different than any speech we've given. I thought it had to be something different. So I'm freaking out. Well, I decide I'm going to just give a speech that I already gave, but change it. So I picked the speech on why you should hire me. And I just figured, well, I'm not going to try to convince these people they need to hire me because they're not going to know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to talk about me. I'm going to talk about how I ended up in college at the age of 50, changing my life. Who does that? So I figure if I can talk about anything and I know about anything, I know about me. So I get up, and now I'm trying to find somebody to come with me. Okay, I'm trying to find somebody that will come with me because I'm scared to death. I asked my family, I asked my children, I asked my daughters-in-laws, I asked my son-in-law, I asked a couple people here in class. Nobody could come. Nobody would come with me. So then I'm at this place, and I'm scared still. Mr. Dickens, or Dixon, comes to me, and he shakes my hand, and he's a very nice gentleman. And he says, come with me, we're going to go, to the conference room. And I'm thinking, conference room? Really? So, after we get there, he introduces me to a couple people. There's like 5 people there, and I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. But there's this really long table with a whole bunch of chairs. And this room, really long, with the podium sitting right here. Well, they sit me right there at the front of the table. And then they start putting these little cards up in front of everybody. First speaker, second speaker. These are the things right here. There's a evaluator 1 and evaluator 2. So I'm not knowing what's going on. Then this wonderful lady, her name is Georgia Marion. She gets up, and she is the vice president of membership. She says, I want to welcome you to Toastmasters to our open house. Open house? Really? An open house? I'm speaking, and it's open house. All these people started coming. I'm sitting here, and all these people start showing up. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's not just 5 people. Now there's like 15, and then 20. And then the whole place is filled up. All the chairs around the table are filled up, and people are standing up. And I'm like, and they haven't called me to speak yet.
Oh, no.
So they're really professional, and everything's timed. Everything that they do is timed. The person up here is timed. The person who's timing is timed. Everything's timed. And I'm sitting here just kind of trying to soak all this in. And they called the first speaker. Her name is Pam Heffley. She's the president of that Toastmasters. Really beautiful, really professional. Really knew what she was talking about. Really knew what she was doing. She's up here, and she's telling a story about how my dad, I'm going to trick my dad today. I am going to trick my dad today. She said, my dad told me he would pay me 25 cents for every fruit fly that I catch and kill and return to him. So she says, she goes through the house and she goes in the, you know, the light fixtures and gets all these dead bugs. And she puts them on a piece of tape, and then she gets a little red marker and she puts there so it looks like fresh blood. So it looks like she caught these. She puts them on a piece of paper, and she has a lot of them on this piece of paper. And she shows them to her dad, and it says $8. She said, you owe me $8. He said, I am not paying you $8. Those were already dead. So anyway, this is her speech. I'm sitting here, and I'm still scared to death. So I'm looking around. First, I wanted a familiar face with me so I could have somebody for comfort. Now I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I hope I don't know anybody here. I hope I don't know anybody. I hope nobody knows me, because this is crazy. So for my second point, looking for a familiar face, they call my name. Our next speaker is a guest today. Her name is Carla Garris. And the way they introduce people, they tell a little bit about what you're going to talk about. So she said, Carla's just going to tell us about herself today. So I get up and I start giving this speech, and it's going really good. It's going really good. But I'm still really scared, and I'm still praying. I don't know anybody. And then, I'm talking, and I'm getting a little bit more comfortable. All of a sudden, I hear the door open really quietly. It opens up really quietly, and I kind of look up, and oh my gosh, it was my son's godmother. I didn't know she worked there. I had no idea. So now I got a familiar face, and it made me scared all over again. So I'm still scared. So after that, I told my speech, and I got through that, and I finished, and I said, thank you, Toastmasters, for having me. And I went and sat down, and talking about relief. I was so relieved that it was all over. It was all over, and I was done, and I could just breathe. Then they start doing this table topics thing, and I'm cool now because I did my speech, and I'm relaxed, and I'm relieved, right? So he says, can I get maybe one of the guest members to do a table topics? I said, sure, I'll try it. He says, so he has this list of things you can pick, and I picked politics. Why? Why? I don't know nothing about politics, but I did the speech that same day on the vice president candidacy thing, so I'm like, sure, I know a little bit. He asked me, so do you know who's running for government of the state of Washington?
No.
No. I don't know nothing about that at all. So I went, no, I don't know. Well, I really don't know. I think you need to have somebody else do this. And I sat down, and now I feel stupid again, and I'm really scared. So I'm sitting there, and it's all going, and everybody's doing these table topics. It was kind of really interesting. And then they have this vote. They're voting for best speaker, best evaluator. Everybody gets a trophy for something there. Well, not everybody, but they have these categories. Well, they voted, and then they started reading names. Oh, and the people came up and critiqued me, and they were telling me how great I was, how they thought I was doing better than the president Toastmaster. I'm like, really, you guys? I mean, they're just kind of building up my head. They were telling me, yeah, the only thing I did wrong was I put my hands right here and I talked too fast. They said, you talk way too fast, and that's because you're nervous. Then they voted, and they said, winner of Speaker of the Day, I won. I won Best Speaker. I did. And they gave me a trophy, but I couldn't bring it home. I got to hold it for 20 minutes. But it was mine for 20 minutes. I won Best Speaker Award of the Day.
Nice.
So in my conclusion, I told you about my fear. I told you about how I looked for a familiar face, and I told you about how relieved I was once it was all over. Now, I'm going to introduce my friend, Jacob, who's going to bring up the rear and tell us about his experience at the Toastmasters.